It's almost like I feel like the human condition is to fuck things up and then to repair. Because the
Mm-hmm.
connection that comes from the repair feels
Mm-hmm.
stronger than if we were to have gotten it all perfectly.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I think what's that quote? Like, we're wounded in community, healed in community.
Mm.
Because we try to like heal on our own. I mean, you've done that, and I've done
Hmm.
it. Like, I'm gonna heal by reading all the books. It's like, yeah, that doesn't work. I mean, it works to a point, it gets you somewhere, but
Well, it
yeah,
works to let you know like what you want to do, but
yeah.
the integration piece is more nuanced. And I think it only happens in community, having these types of conversations. My name's Randy Rubenstein, and welcome to the Mastermind Parenting Podcast. At Mastermind Parenting, we're on a mission to support strong-willed kids and the families that love them. I'm here with Shawn. Hi, Shawn.
Hello.
Shawn is a masterminder. I've had her on the podcast before. And this is a series that I'm calling the But Really series.
I like it.
I just came up with this. But really, dot, dot, dot. So it's like we think there's an issue, but then when we dig in, we're like, but really, this is what this issue is about. I kept thinking about like when I was coaching you and you were coming on and venting about like the birthday part, Claire's birthday party, and like the older generation, your aunt, your dad, older generation sort of like judgment and just like kind of just being in the way. It's like you're the mom with the little kids and you're like trying to throw a birthday party and a birthday weekend, but really you end up focusing so much bandwidth on entertaining this older generation. And I kind of wanted to just talk about that and unpack it and find out
Hmm.
what the
Hmm.
but really is all about.
Yeah, it was a eye-opening party. Yeah, because it was about me being annoyed that I was like resenting the fact that I was so worried about everyone else. And I think I told you I'm not like one of those good hosts, but like emotionally, I'm pretty good at reading the room and trying to at least feeling obligated. Whether or not I do something with someone else's emotion is another thing. But I was, I mean, a lot of it is just playing out this interpersonal pattern for me that is trying to like get adults to show up for me the way I wanted them to show up for um, as a child, right? And so it doesn't work, and it makes you
Well,
feel just
let's
like really ineffective. And yeah,
So let's talk about like if you had to say like what were the three most annoying or triggering things about the weekend when it comes to that older generation, what would they be? One to three. One to three super annoying, triggering
the
things.
first one is definitely like I expect other people to read the room and make adjustments versus like as opposed like I felt like yeah there was a lot of like I want to do this,
Mhm.
I want to be at your house all weekend, I want to go to breakfast the next day, and just yeah, just me being like, can't you tell that I don't actually want to do this, and then I just feel obligated, like versus me having because I didn't set a boundary, right? Um, yeah, so just me expecting people to do what I do, which is read the room and adjust yourself, versus me having to say explicitly, this is what would be helpful to me, or I don't want to go out to breakfast on Sunday. It's been a long weekend, or I don't need anyone to be there during the time when Will's supposed to nap because he's too excited and then he won't nap and he'll be a mess at the party. So, yeah, so that was number one. That's sort of the main theme that I think of, which is like just do what I and I realize this about myself through I suppose a lot through Mastermind of like just do it. It's not that hard. I do it. Like expecting people to do that versus, and honestly, not even realizing till you and some other people said like that I could set a boundary around that. So not even knowing it was an option. So that was kind of just interesting. I was like, wait, I don't have to just like let people come when they want to come.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's number one.
So feeling annoyed that like you have to explicitly set those boundaries, like my
Hmm.
I don't want my priority this weekend is not entertaining the older generation on my kid's birthday weekend.
Hmm.
Like, I don't want to, I'm not throwing a wedding weekend where we're going to have like a rehearsal dinner and then activities in between events and then end the weekend, wrap it up with a brunch. Like, that is not what this weekend is about. If you want to come when it's your grandchild or your grandniece's birthday, then come and read the room and be that wise older generation that is actually being helpful, right,
Hmm.
and a
Hmm.
part of the celebration. But instead you're just making more work for me, and this is incredibly frustrating. Is that
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think, and having a lot of guilt even saying that because in some ways there's a little bit of helpfulness, but it's not necessarily what I want. Like people helping in the way that they want to help, which is bringing a cake, which was nice, but like I would prefer someone show up and just like someone be someone I could like connect with. If that makes sense. Like, so yeah, it's, I don't know. Like I said, I even feel guilty talking about it a little bit because I'm like, well, they are helpful, but not in the way that I actually wanted. Not in the way that actually allows me to show up for my kids in the way that I would want to.
what would connecting look like? What would the helpfulness look like, can you give an example?
Yeah. I mean, I think just like being there and asking how I'm doing, or just like, I don't know, asking questions versus making assumptions, right? Of like, or just making random comments. That tends to be the thing. Like, hey, your house is a mess, or like, hey, it's not poorly intentioned. It's actually not. There's not. It sounds like there's judgment, but it's really not. It's just lack of awareness of like, oh
Mhm.
hey, doesn't appear that Will's taking a nap. I'm like, no, he's not. He's screaming. And
Mhm.
instead of just commenting on the facts, just saying like, yeah, being there for me. And again, it's that like that desire in me to have what I didn't really feel like I got from older generation in my life.
So interesting because like everyone's different. Like for me, if if there's people around when I'm hosting an event who ask me questions, it's super annoying to me. Like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I just want to check in with you." I'd be
Mm.
like, "Huh?" Like that's extra input. Like now
Yeah.
I now my job is to fill you in on how I'm doing.
Mm. Mm.
And Scott said this recently to his mom. His mom thought I was annoyed with her about something, and and I wasn't annoyed with her about anything. And and Scott said, he goes, "But I told my mom, you know, because I keep throwing all these holidays and so she was like, is Randy annoyed with me about something?" And Scott's like, "No, Randy's not annoyed with you. Not that I know of." He's like, "But let me tell you something about Randy." He said, "When she's hosting these things, she's never gonna say, hey, can you do this and can you do that?" She'll just, he kind of pointed out my lone wolf pattern, right? Like my
Mhm.
adaptive pattern, which is I can't count on anyone. I'll just do it all myself. So
Mhm.
he goes, "She's never going to ask you what to do. Um, but when you just do something, when you just notice something that needs to be done and you just do it, she's super appreciative."
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
but when she's like in the middle of doing things, if you like ask her what needs to be done, that annoys her. And I was like, that's
Mhm.
so true. That's so true. It
Mhm.
does. It overwhelms me. It's like my mom used to show up when I was throwing a holiday, and like she'd show up 10 minutes before, and then she'd be like, what can I do? And I'm like, nothing right now. Like
Mhm.
I'm doing the last final things. And now you're asking me to give you a job so that you can feel useful. And like, that's so
Mhm.
fucking annoying to me.
Mhm.
um right, so everyone's different because
Yeah.
we all have our triggers. So
Well, we
for
all have our
you,
own patterns of like
yeah.
what needs we didn't have met. Like my parents were really good at meeting my physical needs. Like,
Hmm.
and they were very consistent, right? And they showed up very like my dad's quite good at, and almost too much. Like he's like constantly doing the dishes, constantly like, which is great, but it's like I want you to show up differently, right?
So
And
would it be like, so like that's interesting. So meeting your physical needs, he's like, let me go and get the cake. Right? So there's something very
mhm.
tangible, like let me pick
Mhm.
up the cake and do that, or handle the cake for you. Right? And so
Mhm.
there's something very tangible. Let me do the dishes. There's something very tangible. But would you appreciate if it was more like, I teach this concept of being a gracious guest. Those,
Mhm.
like when you're hosting an event and you have those guests that show up, or those friends that you just know they're going to like help everything go more smoothly, because you don't have to entertain them, and they're always going to be, finding someone to talk to, reading the room, looking at someone who seems like they're not having a good time or feeling kind of, isolated, and they go over and they're just like this gracious guest where they help sort of host in that they entertain other guests, and you constantly see them like making other people have an even more enjoyable time. So would for you would it be like your aunt or your dad is like, you know, playing with the kid, or going and talking with someone else, or getting someone a drink? Like, what would it be?
I mean, I think that would be fine. Like that would be I mean, that would be neutral, I guess. Like it wouldn't annoy me. Like I mean, that'd be good. But I set up these gatherings so they're very low stress, very low maintenance. We're talking like pizza and buy a cake, right? So like I'm not really doing that. I'm not like stressed, right? So it's not like
Mhm.
I need that much. It's just the extra. It's more not during the party. It's before and after that it's like that's when I feel like well they're just around and it'd be different. Like I always want connection, right? Like I want real, authentic, honest conversations. And when I feel like I can't have that and you're just around, then I feel like I can't fully be myself, if that makes sense.
So you don't necessarily want them to scatter. You'd prefer if they were there and they were just happy, like they were like, how are you doing? Is this like asking, checking in with you, having meatier
Yeah.
conversations?
Yeah, like if it was like a lot of the friends in my life, like if they were acting like the people I chose, like if I had I'm definitely someone who likes having friends stay at my house. Like as long as they're okay with me not being a very quote unquote good host because I'm just not that's not really me. Like I'll maybe get like one thing that they like, make sure that they have like their creamer or something, but mostly like you're kind of on your own, but if you can fend for yourself and make it work and be flexible and get your own takeout, like I don't mind having people in my space, which I know if it's a friend that I'm going to have like connecting conversations with, if
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Mhm. So what would it look, so let's just like, in a perfect world, like well, I guess first keep breaking down the things that annoyed you. And then I want to hear you like, just, if we were like, poof, here's some magical fairy dust, and let's now have it play out, like have the crystal ball, have it play out the way it would in a perfect world. So give me the rest of the annoyances.
Well, another main annoyance was like one of the guests shaming my son when we had already he like threw a pillow at someone and almost knocked a cup out of their hand and we were like, "Oh, we don't throw pillows." Like we said something we're not gonna make it a big deal though. He was just excited. There's all these people here, and
Mhm.
then someone else decided that they wanted to put their 2 cents in, and this is not a relative of mine. This is a guest of one of my relatives. So um, it was like, you can't do that. That's not okay. Like actively shaming. So that was definitely, we got to put that top of the list. I was
Mm.
very mad. And yeah, we took him to another room and was like, you are not bad, because he already has that like shame trigger that we're actively working on. So I'm like, thanks, thank you for activating that. And just I was like, no, that was not on. I mean, yes, you shouldn't be throwing pillows. We got to, you know, but you were just excited.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's got to go high up there. I was
Yeah,
very
that's pretty
annoyed.
high.
And
Okay.
ironically, at the end of the party, he was incredibly tired, my son, and like we got him into the bath, and the person who had brought that particular guest who shamed got Will screamed in their face, like just screamed, which I feel
Mm-mm.
like is his way of being like, don't bring mean people into my house.
Mhm.
And I didn't
Mhm.
apologize. I was just like, yeah, he's tired because he didn't get a nap.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Anything else?
mm, I'm trying to remember what else.
Well, the ant comment.
I already forgot what she said. I literally
She
like
like,
blocked this out.
I know. That's why you have me, elephant memory, to remind you. Um, so remember when your aunt like she like didn't leave, and it was like after this whole long weekend, and then I think it
Oh,
was maybe the
oh yeah.
brunch, or I don't remember when, but she like was like, well, if you would have brought some snacks, or she like started giving you parenting advice.
Yeah, yeah. It was if it was I thought afterwards, oh, because I was sort of preemptively setting a boundary, and I was like, yeah, it was fun. A little too much fun. Maybe we'll have to have a little bit less fun next time. Ha ha. Like planting the seed that it was a little much for the kids. They were overstimulated. It didn't go great. And yeah, she said, "Oh, I was thinking afterwards I should have suggested. It was pretty long between lunch and dinner. They hadn't had a snack, so I wish I would have helped by suggesting." And it's truly not a judgmental thing, like at all. And I know that I'm not actually being judged. But of course I was quite mad because it's really like this desire to be helpful. Like I had an idea and I didn't share it with you, and it could have prevented these problems, which is very dismissive of my own parenting wisdom for my kids, right? Like, but it's not intended that way. But yeah, oh yeah, I went into like a little bit of a rage because I had let my boundaries be crossed over and over, and then that happened and I had nothing left. Like I was so spent from the entire weekend. And I think I just posted in our Voxer recently how I'm really thinking of myself as actually quite a highly sensitive person. Like, and I think I literally just I answered the questions differently when I first took it last year, because I was like, no, I'm not. I don't avoid anything really. Like I don't, if I'm anxious, I don't tend to avoid. Some people when they're anxious, they avoid stuff, but I just push through and just do it. And that's what I do with these weekends. I'm like, well, just you have to. And I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, maybe I don't. Um, and it's very interesting.
I've been having the exact same thought recently. I've always said I'm not highly sensitive. I'm not highly sensitive. But then I was like, I think I'm a highly sensitive wannabe because I'm learning so much from the highly sensitive people in my life. And now all of a sudden, I'm realizing, I only saw it's just so interesting when we unlock the next level of the like growth video game, right?
Hmm.
It's like I didn't even see that gaslighting had been such a part of my conditioning, like except for maybe starting like 2 years ago. Like it's a big pattern. And or having a narcissistic parent. Like that was something that was totally in my blind spot. And so now realizing that there was so much gaslighting, and one of the messages that I received that was just like I think just like bred into me and I just couldn't even see it was, Women are supposed to always never be an inconvenience.
Mm.
Okay. So
Mhm.
if you have a lot of feelings, or if you're sensitive in any way, or if you bring any kind of drama, it's super inconvenient for the narcissistic male.
Yeah,
Right? And so
it
like
really gets
very
in them
kind of
right
like
away. Yeah.
Donald, like Donald Trump, Ivanka Trump, you know? Um, and so I think my armor was I'm a no drama mama. Like I'm not ever like I got it. I
Yeah.
got it. I got it. I
Yep.
got it. And so being highly sensitive would be very inconvenient. It would involve a lot of feelings.
Mhm.
And so I think my armor was like, yeah, I don't have a lot of feelings. And so I'm realizing, yeah, wait, there's lots of times like I do take it all in, and I think I've pushed that anxiety down for so long,
Mhm.
and now it's like feeling safe to finally be sensitive. And
Mhm.
I mean, it was only when Corey turned 16 that I was like, what is this feeling in my stomach? What is this feeling in my stomach? And then I was like, oh, it's anxiety. Like, I don't even
Mhm.
think it was safe for me to feel my own anxiety. So
Mhm.
now that it's finally feeling safe, it's almost like I kicked the anthill,
Mhm.
and I'm like,
Mhm.
holy shit, what is all this stuff? I've been talking about all this stuff. Could talk about it how it applied to other people or other family members, but now I'm realizing I think this is me, and I think it wasn't safe to admit even to myself that I was highly sensitive,
Right.
which that's kind of
Totally.
blowing my mind as well.
Yeah, that's so interesting that that's your process too, because yeah, I mean, you and I have that in common somewhat that I mean, you've been working on very, like, what did Scott say? You work on your mental health more than anyone he knows or something. And I think
Mhm.
I'm kind of similar. Like, I wish, oh yeah, I have been working on it actively for quite a long time. And,
Well, I would
and
say becoming a psychologist, right? Like,
Well, and I think my insight lately is like I think I chose this career so I could justify working on myself this much
mhm.
because I think I felt like then I'm allowed to invest in myself in all these ways because it's learning. And that's like the safest way for me to do it because it feels like it's okay because it's for this other purpose, right?
Um, okay, so back to our sort of judgment, older generation,
Yeah.
all that conversation. Do you think so? If we look at what the issue is, so the older generation is not showing up in a way that actually feels helpful,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, sort of making the weekend more stressful instead of less
Mhm.
stressful.
Mhm.
What was the main issue, and what was the learning, and what will you do differently if you had to kind of identify it?
Yeah, I think the main issue is I can't expect people to to be mind readers for me. Like I can't expect people to show up in the way that I've learned to show up for other people of exactly anticipating and trying to like make them comfortable and I have to explicitly create that reality and even though it's with my family like I can and then when I do that I will be able to show up more for my kids and model what boundaries actually look like and model not being strung out so I can actually enjoy my family for who they are.
So you feel like the issue really has to do with boundaries and communication,
Hmm.
right? Like letting people know this is what works for me, this is what doesn't work for me.
And
Um,
resetting my internal expectations of what if I do the exact right thing, somehow they're going to change. Like letting go of that expectation that somehow they're going to just magically become someone different.
right. So it's like being rooted in reality. These are the people that are the older generation in my family. I know who they are. They've shown me a million times. So
Hmm.
having expectations that they're going to be different is
Hmm.
torturing myself,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So accepting reality and adjusting your expectations, communicating what's okay with you, what's not okay with you, and having those boundaries in place.
Mm-hmm.
So that feels like I would even say, yeah, I agree with that. And I want to offer but really what this is about. Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. But really, what this is about to me is a lot of what I've been sort of talking about and thinking about with Michaeline Duclef, the author of Hunt, Gather, Parent, for anybody who hasn't been listening to those episodes. This nuclear family dynamic is a failed experiment. It is not the way human beings were ever meant to live and thrive. And it's not, it goes against this pack mentality of we are meant to be in community. For hundreds of thousands of years it was aunts and grandparents and uncles and neighbors and a whole community of people. It's like what Michaeline experienced when she went and she lived with these different indigenous cultures, where it was it was never all on mom and dad. It was older
Okay.
kids playing with younger kids. It was a whole community pack mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And this nuclear family model that we have been raised in for the and we're raising our kids in, and that has existed in the Western culture for the last 100 years, it really is a failed experiment,
Mm-hmm.
because it's too much on one or two people to raise the humans. And it doesn't, I think it's why I keep on my YouTube algorithm, all these videos keep popping up all about loneliness and the loneliness epidemic. And even like the founder of Airbnb, I heard an interview with him recently, and he
I just
was,
listened to that because you shared it with us. So
didn't
I
you think it
totally
was so
listened to it.
good?
Yeah,
It was
it
so,
was really
to
good.
me,
Yeah.
he's really impressive and
He's
compelling.
really interesting, just the way his brain works. Like you can
Yeah,
just see his like mental process as he's talking. Yeah.
well, and it's so interesting because he's not like, I love how he speaks, because he's not like a CEO business guy. He's not like a finance bro who started a business. He was a designer, so
Mhm.
he's creative and
Mhm.
cool and smart and
Mhm.
um but yeah, like from him talking about the loneliness epidemic to, I just saw a thing with like the Surgeon General on another podcast talking about the loneliness epidemic. And why do we have this loneliness epidemic? It's because humans were never supposed to live in isolation. And I think it starts with this nuclear family model. It's like there's so much involved in raising humans and little humans learning how to be alive and learning how to human, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
there's just a lot of needs, and we all have busy lives, and figuring out what we're supposed to do. Like, what if we were, part of the Inuit community, and it's like the older, from the time you give birth, you have a sisterhood circle basically surrounding you and telling you, like what I learned during, when I finally did natural childbirth on my third child, um, which was, oh, it's going to really hurt for like 45 minutes. And other than that, like it's going to feel like bad period cramps. And we have all these things that, and don't worry, you're going to be okay. We got you. We got you. Like,
Mhm.
if you had this older community who've been through it before, who are saying, like, we're right here, we're with you, we're going to walk you through it. And this is what you can expect. And you're not supposed to just know what it's going to be, because how could you know? Right? Like,
Mhm.
let us shepherd you through this. Let us be here to support you. Let
Mhm.
us make you feel anything other than alone. right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
like, if we had that older community that was bringing their wisdom, not from a place of judgment, from a
Mhm.
place of support and love and protection and helping us feel safe. And then we're able to learn the things, and then we're able to show up like that for our little people. And our little people are also able to trust this, all of these wise elders who are helping us, and then they feel safer in the world because they're surrounded by this beautiful community of support and all these
Yeah.
people surrounding them with love and protection. Like to me, that's the but really, like, it was like,
Mhm.
yes, right, because this Western model is a failed experiment. Now we have to learn all these things, like about boundaries, and we have
Mhm.
to learn better communication tools, and we've got all this like
Right.
grandparent fragility going on, and we have to, like, arm ourselves with tools to let us know it's not our job to take care of the grandparents, and if they get their feelings hurt, that's on them. But
Mhm.
really, it
Mhm.
was never supposed to be like this in the first place. It's all kind of
Yeah.
fucked up.
Yeah, and it makes me think, I mean, there's the nuclear family, but there's also like, I don't know, it makes me just curious. This is something I've talked about with some of my friends of like, yeah, and I'm laughing because Garrett, my husband's been like kind of into looking at like generational differences and the boomer generation and how they're like, what, all these kids going to therapy and then blaming us, this idea of like, you messed it up, right? But there's something about, and you talk a lot about the opposite, which is like being able, the power of just being able to own, truly own, like, ooh, yeah, I did, that wasn't a great plan, right? Like, or being able to own mistakes. And yeah, I mean, what you're saying sounds amazing, but the part of me maybe that's like, but I don't need their help because I know better, right? Like, and that may be true to a point, but not fully, right? And it allows me, it keeps me like shut off
But
from some
you
of that wisdom.
but you know better because you don't trust the wisdom because it hasn't been there.
Yeah,
Because you
because
didn't
it.
get what you needed. Because
Mhm.
in your nuclear family, that's what I'm saying. The generational patterns of the last
Mhm.
100 years
Mhm.
is like,
Yeah.
there's all these wounded children, us, right? And
Yep.
the generation above us and above
Yep.
them, probably too. So there's all these wounded children in grown up people bodies,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Right.
And that's what I'm saying is like,
Mhm.
but really, it should have been different all along. And I
Many
think,
generations ago. Yeah.
yes. And I'm
Yeah.
like, and I think that's an important piece to like understand because, and I think it helps us with our kids because it's
Mhm.
like, of course, we're going to pass down shitty things because we're human and we were
Mhm.
conditioned with this failed experiment, right? Where
Mhm.
we didn't have a
Mhm.
tribe and all these wise elders and feel like we were just protected in this community that was just a big bubble of love, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and we didn't get the needs met. But it's like, okay, and then what does it look like to break a cycle? And what
Mhm.
it looks like to break a cycle is to break up with performative parenting, perfectionism, thinking that
Mhm.
we need to get it all right. God forbid,
Mhm.
we're going to do it so differently. God forbid one day our kids end up in therapy saying, you did me wrong in this way. And it's like, yeah, well, guess what? Of course they're going to. Of course they're
Right.
going to, I'm like, no, I want to raise worthy enough humans who go to therapy and prioritize their mental health and feel close enough to me to come back to me and say, so I've got this thing going on, right? Like, it's like the
Mhm.
gaslighting. Like, how was I able to really look at the gaslighting? It really was me seeing a video of me gaslighting Avery
Mhm.
and seeing it, and then going to her and saying, look at this video and look at how dad and I were gaslighting you, right? Like you see Alex sneak up and scare her, and then he's got a smile on his face, and she's got a smile. She starts shrieking, And then that noise pollution, now I'm realizing both me and Scott, highly sensitive people. And all of a sudden there's the shrieking and the noise pollution. And then we're like, Avery. And
Yeah.
you see Alec, like he's figured out this little nuanced way to like fuck with his sister, right? He was probably dysregulated. He goes, he messes with his sister. He pulls her into the land of dysregulation. And then we gaslight her. And so
Mhm.
when I pointed out to her, she's like, yeah. And I was like, how frustrating that must have been for you. And she's like, yeah. And it's a lot of what she works on in therapy. Right. And then she fell into a relationship and there was a gaslighting pattern. And so, like,
Mhm.
we're talking about all of this. And I'm saying, we primed you to fall into that relationship, you know?
Right.
And we're just looking at it. And she'll say, yeah, and I'm going to do it even better with my kids. And this is how
Mhm.
we break these generational patterns. And I'm
Mhm.
like, no, 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 I'm not. I don't need you to take care of me and make me feel bad. You know, she's like, but mom, you did so many things right. And I'm like, no, 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 I don't need you to take care of me. I actually think it's interesting to look at sort of from a sociological perspective, which is I had no clue I was doing that. I thought I was
Mhm.
doing it all differently. But the truth is if I was conditioned with such a gaslighting pattern and it was such a thread in me and it was in my blind spot and I couldn't see it, of course, those blind spot patterns are going to be passed down. And so I was like, I thought I was so aware and now I can see it so clearly, but I couldn't see it then. And it's
Mhm.
actually really fascinating to me. And I also wish that that hadn't happened to you because
Mhm.
that had to have been incredibly frustrating, you know?
Yeah, just that, I mean, the freedom for her, but also I think the freedom for us as parents to be able to say, because I remember, like, I mean, I think most people, when they start thinking about being parents, they're terrified. Like, I was on a race to like heal myself as much as I could before I had kids. And look, I made some progress, so I'm proud of that. And I still to this day, I think I mentioned that in a Voxer recently of like, I just gotta heal as much as I can, as quick as I can, so I fuck them up as least as I can. And which is well intentioned, right? But it puts me in the state of
It's a
like
lot of pressure.
fight or flight, and then I can't actually connect with them because I'm just
I
like,
don't I think that's actually more of the performative, perfectionistic, um, judging yourself, judging, like I think that's more of that culture that we've been conditioned in the last 100 years versus no, of course. Of course, we're going, like, we're humans. We were conditioned a certain way. Things are going to get through. But when we become a family that talks about all the things, once something is brought to my attention, I'm going to work on myself to the point that I have the confidence to get curious and to look at these things and to believe my kids when they bring it to my attention. And
yeah,
there's no topic that's off limits, right?
right, right, which requires, yeah, being able to hold space for your own pain, right? Which is like, oh crap, I hurt them, right?
I can feel myself going to a place of worry and guilt and shame that I've done some of these things to my children or
Mhm.
I wonder if I have.
Mhm.
And then like stopping myself and saying, okay, right now I'm the child of the immature adult. I want to like understand my own conditioning better. And like I
Yeah.
have to stop myself from jumping into the parent role and then like feeling my own fragility.
Mhm.
Right. Like, so I'm like, okay, there will be a time and a place for that, but not right now. Right now,
Right.
I need to look at it from this lens.
Clarify
And
my
it's,
own
yeah.
my
Hmm.
own process. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so, yeah, it's so interesting. And I think this stuff is important to look at because when we start to look at it from, I think the, but really angle,
Mhm.
I don't know, there's something for me that, you know, is like when we're just like, okay, I need to have better boundaries and better communication skills and let people know what's okay with me and what's not okay with me. And I think
Mhm.
that's important. But when we add the but really, I feel like it brings more compassion to that older generation for
Mhm.
getting it wrong, because
Mhm.
they're
Mhm.
getting it wrong because it was gotten wrong for them too.
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
so, like, they don't know what they don't know either.
Right. Yeah, it's nice to bring that like wide angle lens view to it because I think sometimes, I mean, certainly I talk about that with clients a lot of like we're looking at and having compassion for their parents' experience, but I think yeah, it's nice to do it on a broad scale too, of like we're all living in these systems with these approaches and yeah, nuclear family, individualism, like the systems that are set up and how it causes this disconnection from ourselves and from others. And it's nobody's fault, right? But yes, we do have to do a lot of work to try to pull out of it and break those patterns,
But
which is
it's like,
tiring.
I mean, I will say this has to me been the best part about my kids becoming young adults, is that once we start having these conversations and I start to be able to see these things, it's hard at first, like it's really hard, especially when I didn't realize, like, I was like exactly like you, like, I got to heal myself as much as possible because I'm going to get this more right. And
Hmm.
and so it's like there was a lot of proving energy of from that sort of wounded child place, but I was armored up. So I wasn't even looking at that wounded child place, but I had this something in me, like a fire in me to get it more right and to get it more right. And so when I first had to look at, oy, okay, I got it wrong. And then I got it wrong again. And then I got it wrong again. And then, um, at first it was like there was a lot of kind of just ego, like bruised ego. And I didn't want to look at it. It was super hard. And then once I did, and especially it was like with Avery having those, I mean, it's like why I teach productive conversation, like having those productive conversations, like really believing her and really having that conversation where I saw her and I believed her and she got to get these things off her chest. Like
Hmm.
that felt so cathartic for me because I can't imagine ever having conversations with my own parents like that.
Hmm. Yeah, right. No, I mean, it's huge, that
It's
ability to repair. And I do think I definitely fall into perfectionistic, performative parenting patterns at times, but still, but also there is a lot of freedom in knowing, like, okay, I still criticize myself, I think, when I miss the mark, but it's so nice to be able to go back and probably even more when they're older. Mine are not that old. So we're not going to
when
be
they're
having deep conversations, but still being able to own. And I think it's, yeah, that humanness. Like, I think it's been
I
even,
mean,
yeah.
that part with everybody talks about like the negatives of when your kids become teenagers and young adults. But when you start to have those conversations where, like, we have one of those conversations where I'm like, holy shit, I didn't see it. Like, I missed it. I'm so
Hmm.
sorry. Like, I am so sorry that I did that. And then when she tries to, she's like, but mom, there's lots that you did right. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm the mom. I do not need you to take care of me. I'm looking at this. And so we have one of those conversations, and it's just so incredibly connecting.
Hmm.
And like, it's something that I don't ever remember ever feeling with my parents. It feels so beautiful that I don't know that it's almost like I feel like the human condition is to fuck things up and then to repair. Because the
Hmm.
connection that comes from the repair feels
Hmm.
stronger than if we were to have gotten it all perfectly.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I think what's that quote? Like, we're wounded in community, healed in community.
Mm.
Because we try to like heal on our own. I mean, you've done that, and I've done
Hmm.
it. Like, I'm gonna heal by reading all the books. It's like, yeah, that doesn't work. I mean, it works to a point, it gets you somewhere, but
Well, it
yeah,
works to let you know like what you want to do, but
yeah,
the integration piece is more nuanced. And I think it only happens in community, having these types of conversations
hmm,
and going back to the, we were designed as humans to live in community, which isn't just your little individual nuclear pack. It's like there's a lot of other branches. And I think that when we do the healing work and when we have these types of conversations, it brings, it's like a deep remembering back. It's like the human condition. Yeah, like this is
hmm,
what we're supposed to be doing. We're not supposed to be healing over here on Isolation Island. We're supposed to
yeah,
be, we're supposed to be connecting. We're supposed to be like truly knowing each other. And a lot of times there's not even words, it's just a feeling. It's
yeah,
just this like
yeah.
beautiful feeling that happens when you feel like people get you and you just feel connected to them.
Yeah, it's so interesting too because we've talked a little bit on our Voxer thread about this, and I've kind of chimed in a little bit of just how like real everyone is. And I have a psychologist friend who I've never met who we ended up getting on Voxer just because we like communicating in that way. And so she's just someone I met because she had an online program and she's in like rural Louisiana. And we were talking the other day about how much we judge ourselves for like being sensitive and crying. Because I judge myself so harshly every time I cry on those Voxers. Like I don't, but I do. And because that's just been my conditioning. And I cried in a message to her and we were just talking about like the process of like really truly leaning into that vulnerability and how you never forget those moments when you actually are able to do that with someone. Like I've like these few moments where and it was me expressing like gratitude for her openness and vulnerability. Like I was just crying because I was just like I just appreciate you and you being an open human being and I'm just glad you trust me enough to like share some of these things that you don't share. And it's like we both were like we're never going to forget that like moment. And it was not even live. It was like on Voxer. And I mean I've had those in our Voxer thread too, I would say, but
It's
it's
so
exactly what you're
cool.
saying. It's like that intuitive remembering and that sensitive part of me that like loves to lean into that moment. I've judged for so many years, but like that's just like the part of me that's like this is how it's supposed to be, right? Like we're supposed to be connecting and I'm supposed to be able to bring all parts of myself to that. So that's awesome.
Well, when you feel safe with someone and you get to just be unfiltered, the real you, and you trust that like it's all allowed and they see the real you. Like it when like even just hearing that comment, to go back to like the comment that Scott made to his mom about me.
Hmm.
Like that was something that I wouldn't have described about me at all. Like
Hmm.
that I'm never going to say, "Hey, can you do this or can you do that?" I'll just handle it. But if somebody shows up for me and assesses what needs to be done and then just does something helpful, like that feels so incredibly supportive and loving to me. And I never would have put that into words, but the fact that he could put that into words
Yeah.
felt so loving to me because it was like, oh, wow, you really see me. You really know me.
Yeah, definitely.
It's so cool. It's so cool when you just like, when you have that with people. And I think the thing that can be confusing in this modern age of technology, I hear people say this all the time, like, I feel like people on these, like our, I call them our modern sister sharing circles that we have on
Hmm.
all of our different Voxer threads in our groups.
Hmm.
Like I feel like you guys know me better than like my family or people that I'm friends with in my real life, right? Like it's
Hmm.
not real life because it's happening virtually. And I think that we're doing what we need to do. Like there is a loneliness epidemic. And so
Mhm.
we're using modern tools to help us heal and overcome that epidemic.
Mhm.
And I think, I'm just proud of all of us for doing that, whether it's listening to podcasts, like for everybody who's listening to this podcast, whether it's putting messages in your ears that make you remember that you are part of a pack, you're part of our pack, you're not alone on isolation island figuring
Yeah.
all this stuff out. And I just think, we're all cycle breakers because we're like, yeah, however it's been done is not working for me, so I'm going to be a resourceful person, and I'm going to find my people,
Mhm.
and and I'm going to keep figuring this thing out and learning how to human even better.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
cool. It's so cool. Okay, I knew this would be a meaty conversation because
Yeah,
because you're awesome and you're you, and I love and adore you. So thanks
this
for
was
doing
fun.
this with me.
Yeah, of course. It was great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Have a great week. Thanks for listening today, guys. I hope you picked up some tips, tools, maybe some baby steps for creating more balance and boundaries in your life. And I just wanted to let you know, if you want to continue moving the needle forward in creating this for yourself, having a happier household, I want you to go to my website and check out mastermindparenting.com. We have 3 beginning programs, and if you need some accountability and more support, then please look for the one that would be a good fit for you. And as always, we're on all the social channels under Mastermind Parenting. On Instagram, it's mastermind_parenting. And periodically I do pop up on different Instagram lives, Facebook lives, where I give you teaching and coaching, and I love engaging with you live to help you help your strong-willed kids so that they can feel better, because when they feel better, they do better. And I love, love, love getting to know you guys. So thanks for listening. If you like this podcast, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Super, super appreciative.